Joe Biden has said he's outraged and heartbroken by the deaths of 7 international aid workers in Gaza. They were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Now, in a highly critical statement, the president said Israel was not doing enough to protect civilians. 3 British men, John Chapman, James Henderson and James Kirby, were among those killed when a convoy carrying staff from World Central Kitchen was hit on Monday. The charity released pictures of the aid workers overnight. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strike was unintended and vowed to investigate. Our reporter Graham Satchell has more.
The pictures tell their own devastating story. The team from the charity World Central Kitchen was travelling in a convoy of 3 cars. You can clearly see their logo. Each car was hit in what looks like a precision, targeted attack. The charity has now paid tribute to the 7 workers who lost their lives, including 3 British nationals. 57-year-old John Chapman, who's believed to have served in the Royal Marines, was working for the charity as a security advisor. James Henderson, who was 33, is also understood to have served in the Marines. James Kirby was 47 and another armed forces veteran. All 3 men were trying to protect their colleagues. The charity described them as heroes. These 7 beautiful souls were killed by the Israel Defense Forces. Their smiles, laughter and voices are forever embedded in our memories. We are reeling from our loss, the world's loss. World Central Kitchen was providing vital food aid in Gaza, supplying millions of meals. The consequences of the attack will be felt here first. The charity has paused its operations, putting immediate stress on an already desperate situation.
That's going to put civilians at risk, at greater risk of famine. People are already starving to death. And what we really need now is for aid to get in quickly and to be able to be distributed safely.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack was tragic and then said this happens in war. Overnight, the head of the Israeli army was far more conciliatory.
We are sorry for the unintentional harm to the members of WCK. We share in the grief of their families as well as the entire World Central Kitchen organization from the bottom of our hearts.
Despite that apology, there has been global condemnation. America described the attack as an outrage. Britain said the deaths were completely unacceptable. Australia has demanded accountability. In Jerusalem, more protests on the street as Israelis demand the safe return of their hostages. Pressure is growing at home and abroad, but so far the Israeli government has been impervious to calls for a ceasefire and is determined to continue its fight against Hamas. Graham Satchell, BBC News.
Well, Tess Ingram is a UNICEF spokeswoman and is temporarily based in Gaza.
It's appalling that these brave colleagues, while just trying to help people in Gaza, have been killed. So it certainly have had an impact here on all of us in the Gaza Strip who are still reeling from the news of losing these colleagues. In terms of operations, World Central Kitchen plays such a pivotal role in providing food to the people of Gaza. They'd already provided millions of meals over the last few months. So them taking this very understandable pause will certainly have an impact on the people of Gaza who are already on the brink of famine, and just we cannot afford to not continue to push forward and provide them with the food that they so desperately need.
Well, let's speak to our Middle East correspondent in Jerusalem, Yolande Nell. Yolande, it's good to have you. What more do we know around the circumstances of the strike at this point?
I mean, the Israeli military says it's still investigating, but we've had the chief of staff coming out saying that this was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night. He said during a war in very complex conditions. The Israeli prime minister had previously said, this does happen in wartime. But you have at the same time some Israeli media reports looking more deeply into what went wrong here. And one in Haaretz this morning is quoting unnamed army sources as basically saying that this is also a result of poor discipline as a result of soldiers and officers who are not following rules and orders properly in the field.
And Yolande, what has been the reaction so far from allies, especially ones who've had nationals killed in the strike?
I mean, there's been huge international criticism of both how Israel is conducting this war, but also really this has put a spotlight on the situation for aid workers and the very, very difficult conditions and dangerous conditions that they have been working under. And I think there is now going to be a kind of real effort to try to get Israel to put new mechanisms in place that will make it safer for aid workers to get back to work properly in Gaza and to be able to do what they have to do to distribute much needed aid across the Gaza Strip.
All right, Yolande, thanks so much for that update. And if you want to learn more about the aid workers who were killed in that strike, there is more on our website and our app.